Hey, okay, so finally I'm reading your chart. So this is your chart, and I don't expect you to understand it at all. I just like to always show what I'm looking at when I'm reading charts. So everything I'm about to say is just from this picture. So I just like to be transparent about that. So if you don't know what it means, that's totally fine. I'll translate it for you. And this chart reading is for, let's see, Tuesday, May 9th, 1978, in New York. I just did New York, so anywhere in that general area will work fine for me. And you said you don't know the time. It's somewhere between 11 and 11:30. So this is the chart for 11:15 p.m. on that day. And for your chart, it does make a difference what time it was. So like if you could find out the exact birth time, that would give more information. But I would bet you that just from what I could see, I could probably guess whether it's earlier or later, or I could help you to guess that. Because there's a something that changed right at 11:15 that night, and basically the ascendant moved from Sagittarius to Capricorn right at 11:15 p.m. So this is the chart for 11:15. Here's the ascendant at 0 degrees Capricorn, so right on that cusp. And so whether it's in Sagittarius or Capricorn will be sort of a big difference because it's your ascendant has to do a lot with our identity and our appearance, and also some of our purpose in life or what we came here to do. Sort of like, for instance, if you're born earlier, more toward 11 o'clock p.m., your ascendant would be in Sagittarius, and so your mission here would pretty much just to explore as much as you can, or just have as many different experiences as you can. So people with ascendant in Sagittarius, it gives you a lot of room to just do whatever. You can't really fail your mission as long as you go out and have a lot of experiences. Even experiences that are bad aren't a failure, because as long as you're learning from it, that's the ascendant in Sagittarius person just wants like wisdom and experience, and so any experience is good. That's the life mission of Sagittarius rising. If you have rising in Capricorn like this chart is, and like any time within this area after 11:15 p.m., then it's a lot different. You're not just here to experience whatever. Capricorn rising would be much more goal oriented. So you're not just running around just exploring whatever. Capricorn rising would be much more planning and very much more goal oriented. So you know exactly what you want. You want to achieve something. Like, instead of having many different adventures, you want one big project or a couple big projects in your life that you're working toward your whole life. So like Capricorn rising might want to be a business owner, even when they're very young. Like even very young, they would know kind of what they want to do. And it would be really important for them to accomplish something, or maybe leave something behind, before they pass on. Achieve something really big that will maybe change the world. Capricorn rising really wants to do something to change the world, or just they really want to be accomplished, and so they want, like I said, a lot of them would be business owners or something of that nature. So that's the difference. Sagittarius rising is just kind of here to explore whatever. It's more about the journey than the destination. Capricorn rising, it's more about the destination. There's some kind of objective goal in mind. So kind of think to yourself, whether are you really goal oriented? Does it really matter to you that you want to achieve something, out of a process, or are you just here for the experience? Because if you're just here for the experience, I would suggest you're probably Sagittarius rising. But if you're much more goal oriented, you want to achieve a certain outcome, or you're constantly strategizing, with any interaction or experience that you have, then you're probably more Capricorn rising. Also, if you're very open with the world, and if it's really pretty easy for you to make connections, and you're just kind of spontaneous with people and kind of warm, and then it's easy for you to open up with people that way, that sounds like Sagittarius rising. Capricorn rising, it could also be easy for them to interact with people, but for them, again, it's very goal oriented. So they're always thinking like, okay, what's my intention with this person, and it's not necessarily in like in a bad way, but there's always some kind of intention. They always have an idea of where it's going. Sagittarius rising doesn't know where it's going. They're kind of just feeling things out, exploring. Okay, so and so that's kind of just the one difference there. This is the only part of the chart that would really change, so I'm just gonna focus on it first, just so I get to it and explain it. And then the last thing would be like, if you're Sagittarius rising, that makes Jupiter your ruling planet. So your whole vibe would be much more positive and optimistic. You would just kind of readily accept abundance, like kind of just expect everything to be fine, I guess, just generally be an optimist. With and wait, let me see, where's your Jupiter? Your Jupiter's in Cancer, and it's exalted. So yeah, actually that would really make your life a lot easier. With Capricorn rising, if you're born after 11:15 p.m., things would be more difficult, more challenging. You would have to work for things a lot harder. Nothing for you would just be inherited, or nothing would be luck. You'd have to start completely from the bottom and work for everything that you have if you're Capricorn rising, with Saturn as your chart ruler. Okay, so that's enough. That's all I'm going to say about that. So that's the only thing that's not really clear to me, with the time difference. Other than that, though, I can still see a lot. So you've got Sun in Taurus and Moon in Gemini. So this part, in astrology, the Sun and the Moon make up the bulk of our personality. Kind of like it kind of makes sense, because the Sun and the Moon are, kind of the most obvious, obviously visible things in the sky. So, excuse me. Yeah, and then as we talked about before, the Sun is more like our casual personality, or our exterior personality. It's who we are at work, or like who we are in the daytime when the sun is up. That's usually our sun sign. So it's who we are to our coworkers, to our acquaintances, friends who aren't super deep. This isn't deep stuff. It's kind of just the shallow layer. So you have Taurus there, and Taurus is an earth sign. And so we have a lot of words in our vocabulary which sort of allude to these elements in astrology. There's 4 elements. One of them is earth. So when you say someone is very grounding or grounded, or someone's very, down to earth, these are things, that's kind of what the earth element is about. So it's earth people are more kind of chill, mellow, kind of tranquil. They're usually pretty humble. They're hardworking. They're more focused on physical things. So they're naturally oriented towards going to work, paying the bills. They're usually more kind of hygienic and more productive hard workers. And so they end up being kind of responsible. Taurus in particular is not as serious as the other earth signs. Virgo and Capricorn can be a little bit more pessimistic, but with Taurus there's more of an ease, or they sort of like you're born in the middle of spring, and so everything is kind of like there's an abundance there. Everything's kind of blooming and flourishing. So Taurus is kind of just naturally accept abundance. They kind of just they have a very easygoing, maybe carefree demeanor, because they're just very chill people. They expect everything to kind of just work out, and it usually does for them. They can be a little bit lazy. They like to sort of self-indulge in physical pleasures, whether that be like they're known to have I don't know, to enjoy like the face masks, or enjoy a bath, or they'll wear really comfortable clothes because they're very sensual. They're very focused on physical things, physical pleasures, and the physical things. I just lost track of what I was saying. Oh yeah. Also, so because they're so focused on their senses, they can be a little bit skeptical. They only want to believe in things that they can sort of physically understand, or they or that they can personally observe. So that could be good and bad. Any trait sort of has a good side and a bad side. The bad side is that maybe they could be a little bit too stubborn, or not always open to new experiences. Taurus is a more conservative sign, very practical. So Taurus is kind of happy going with the tried and true, and just kind of it could be a little bit complacent, but at the same time it's a good quality, because Taurus doesn't get caught up in like crazy ideas, or it doesn't get riled up easily. Taurus is the ruled, or its animal is the bull, and so I think that it's a really good metaphor, because Taurus people are usually very calm and very peaceful. Like a bull or a cow would just be very peaceful, just grazing all the time. And Taurus is usually like food a lot too. But if you mess with a Taurus, or if you mess with a bull, then you get the horns. So they can be very aggressive if they're provoked. And that's kind of what a Taurus is like. They're usually very chill, very easygoing, very mellow, calm, just kind of pleasant personalities. But if you do provoke them, and if you are aggressive with them, they're definitely not afraid of confrontation. They're very able to defend themselves, and they know their boundaries very well. So that's just your sun sign. That's just the shallow side of your personality. Again, that's who you are with coworkers, acquaintances. Your moon is in Gemini, which is much different. So the deeper part of your personality, the more sun is the masculine part of our personality. Moon is the feminine part. So Taurus is who you are on the outside. I kind of already said that, I guess. Moon is who you are on the inside. Moon is like your mind and your feelings. It's who you are with close friends, family, maybe in romantic relationships. Also, I've just noticed personally, if you get drunk or caffeinated, if you're on any substances at all, your moon sign will kind of characterize that. And your moon is very different. So the moon is in, it's one sign over from your sun in Gemini. Gemini is very different from Taurus. So Gemini is, if Taurus is kind of conservative, kind of more steady, more slow, Gemini is very fast. It's kind of all over the place. It's very scattered. What else? Gemini's like it's like a 12-year-old kid just asking all of these questions. Gemini has kind of a short attention span. It has a lot of activity. It's so curious and active. It's wanting to have many different experiences and try a little bit of everything. Gemini will probably know a lot about many different subjects. So that and Gemini is very active. It's known to be chatty, like I was talking to you before. But with Gemini moon, all that chatty, frenetic energy, it's all contained on the inside. So you have a very active mind, and you're very curious. Also, your moon is how our emotions are, and so with your emotions being in that kind of sign, Gemini is a very mental energy or very cerebral energy. So the way you would experience emotions would actually be very mentally oriented or very logical. So you'd kind of analyze your emotions and break them down and notice patterns in them, and sort of just be objective and try to figure out, like, how can you maximize happiness and avoid, unpleasant emotions, I guess. And so it makes a person who generally will have a pretty good emotional regulation, just because Gemini is a very emotionless sign, relatively. And so having your moon there, it doesn't mean you're emotionless, but relative compared to other people, you'd have much better emotional regulation than some people. You wouldn't have extremes in emotion, typically speaking. And Taurus too can be a little bit sensitive or a little bit romantic, but it's it's not particularly emotional either. It's definitely not volatile. So combining the two, Taurus sun with Gemini moon, would make a person who is pretty easygoing, I think. And I think it's a really nice balance. Sometimes when I look at a chart, there's a word or a keyword or a phrase that comes to mind. And for yours, I would say your chart is very balanced. You can see from your chart the glyphs or the signs on the outside of the wheel are the planets. And in your chart, they're very scattered. So, like, they're not all just clustered in one place. If they were clustered in one place, you'd have very intense strengths and very intense weaknesses in that one area. But because your planets are kind of all scattered all over the place, you're not too extreme in any one particular area. And with your sun and moon, and we call them personal planets. Even the sun and moon we call personal planets, even though they're technically not planets. But they're all kind of in different elements. You got sun and earth, moon and Gemini, which is air, Mercury and fire. So with your chart, the word that comes to mind or the phrase is well-rounded. This is a well-rounded personality, I would say. And even just with Taurus, sun, Gemini, moon, the Taurus is, more consistent. It knows its boundaries. It's more down to earth, I guess you would say. Doesn't get caught up in like crazy. It knows where to invest its time and energy, I guess. And then Gemini moon kind of balances the Taurus sun, because Gemini moon would make you more open-minded, more curious, more open to new experiences. So the Taurus would keep you structured and firm, but then the Gemini would keep you also more flexible. So you're almost like a tree that's like firm enough and rooted into the ground enough to have that structure, but also flexible enough to bend in the wind and not to break. So that's a really nice combination, I would say. And combining earth and air, I've just noticed people with sun and earth, moon and air, or vice versa, are just generally pretty easygoing. They're just chill people. If that makes sense. Like, um, I don't know how to explain that. They just they're just easygoing. You know, they're not intensely emotional, and it's easy for them to be objective, I guess, or they just don't really rock the boat a whole lot, and you know, and I think maybe again it's because of that balance of having the grounded earthiness, you know, from the earth, and then also the kind of the air energy would kind of make you a little bit more detached. So earth signs can get a little too serious sometimes, but then blending in that air makes you a little more detached, so you can kind of be more self-aware, I guess, or more flexible. But then you've got Mercury in Aries, so that would make you a little bit headstrong. But again, it's like Mercury in Aries by itself could maybe speak before thinking or be overly confident. But I think for your chart, it actually works pretty well because the Sun in Taurus is more grounded, more humble, and Moon in Gemini is pretty intelligent. So when you've got Mercury in Aries, you would be very sure of yourself, I think, but I don't think it would be ungrounded. You do have um, Taurus is sort of cautious, and then Gemini Moon is intelligent, I would think, or it thinks a lot, so it's easy for you to think before you act because you would think rather quickly, I think, with Gemini Moon and Mercury in Aries. Yeah, so basically I think you would be very sure of your conclusions, but I think it would be usually you would usually be right to be confident in your conclusions, I would say. Yeah, just with that combination, I think it actually works pretty well. And you might be a little bit stubborn, or it might take you. But again, with the Gemini Moon, you are also flexible and open-minded. So as long as something makes sense, you're open to it pretty much. That sounds kind of vague, but I think any opinions that you would have, I think, are well thought out, and so it's unlikely that those would change. But not because you're stubbornly holding on to them, but just because you've thought them out, pretty thoroughly, and so they're pretty grounded. I think if someone did present to you better information that was more accurate, and if you were wrong, I think you actually could admit that you're wrong, and um, as long as something really makes sense, I think you would be open to it. So it's a nice combination. It's kind of difficult for me to explain with like when you're blending such different energies together, because I don't want to sound I don't want to contradict myself, but pretty much you've got like Mercury's our mind, and it's in Aries, so your mind is kind of fiery. It's very sure of itself. It's a little bit cocky, but again, you're blending that with the humble Taurus Sun, which is more grounded. So it's a nice combination. Yeah, it's just hard for me to really articulate, I guess, but hopefully that makes sense. The only element that you don't have a lot of is water. So, and you do have like Jupiter there, but you have no personal planets there, and your rising isn't in water for sure. So, but still, you got a couple planets there. But overall, if you do lack anything, it would be water. So that would be like, water is the most emotional element. So generally, it will make a person really emotional. So you wouldn't be a very sappy person. Like if someone comes to you with a problem, I really think that you would be the person who would give them a solution to their problem. You're not someone to come to you for sympathy. You're not just going to be like a shoulder to cry on, maybe, or maybe you could, but like you'd be more a person, more empathy, less sympathy. Just you'd actually want to solve their problem, not just console a person over it. Do you get what I'm saying? So lacking a little bit of that water, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just makes you a little bit less sensitive or less sappy. Gemini Moon too is very logical, not very emotional, like I said. So really overwhelming displays of emotion might be a little bit, not your thing. Be a little bit distasteful for you. Yeah. And okay, what else? You got Mars and Leo in the eighth house. So you already told me, we already talked a little bit, so I already know some things just from talking to you. But like I said, I could definitely see a really strong sex drive. Mars is our sex drive. It's also like, I guess Mars and Venus kind of rule our desires, but Mars is the more masculine side of that, and Venus is the more feminine side. So both kind of rule our. My cat's making a weird sound. Both kind of rule our sexual desire to some extent, and they also rule how we express ourselves in romantic relationships. But again, Mars is the more masculine side of that, so it's usually more sexual. Both could be somewhat sexual, but Mars is generally our sex drive. Mars is how we are aggressive, or if we are aggressive. Mars is how we defend ourselves, how we fight if we have to fight. A lot of our ambition is Mars. And yours is in Leo, which is a very fiery sign, and it's fixed and fire, so it's very consistent, a consistent fire. So it's consistently energetic, consistently, like fire is the most active, most outgoing, most energetic, and Leo is consistently that way. So having Mars there makes your sex drive very strong, but very consistently strong. And it's just nice to have that constant fire going. So I think you could be very productive. You could work, like you wouldn't tire very easily because, with the combination of Taurus Sun, and then Mars and Leo, like you could, what's the word? You could just keep going at something for a long time. I don't know why I'm thinking like sexually, or with work, or I don't know. Yeah, you could just have some like good endurance that way, I guess, if that makes sense. And you seem like you have kind of an energetic personality. Taurus Sun is more laid back or low key, but really you don't have a lot of other Earth. You actually have no other Earth planets other than that. So that definitely is part of you, but most of your planets are in fire and air. So, excuse me. So like. So you do have that more casual side of you that's more laid back, but a lot of your personality is really kind of more active and more spontaneous, and more maybe a little bit less cautious. Like, it is nice that you have that Taurus. Hopefully I'm making sense. It is nice that you have that sort of outer part of yourself to represent yourself that's more consistent and more cautious, and it's kind of like a filter, I guess, for the rest of your personality. But I think under that layer, you do have a lot of spontaneity. You don't necessarily have to plan everything out. You like to just kind of, what's the word? To be maybe a little bit impulsive or spontaneous. I wouldn't say your chart looks super reckless or anything, but I do think you'd be someone who enjoys, I don't know, like maybe going on a vacation, and you wouldn't necessarily need to plan every little thing out. I think you could do that. You could go either way, but I think most of all you would enjoy the spontaneity, or you wouldn't necessarily mind a surprise in life or going a different direction. Or at least you wouldn't mind as much as the average Taurus. Taurus is usually more consistent. It doesn't like surprises. It likes just consistency, and it likes things to be predictable. But because you're combining that with Aries, Mercury, Moon in Gemini, Mars in Leo, all those would make you you would enjoy new things as well, and enjoy, I don't know, just unpredicted, spontaneous activities, I guess. But anyway, so I got a little sidetracked there. But Mars in Leo, yeah, you'd have a strong sex drive. You might be attracted to men who are more fiery. So someone who is different, someone who like knows themselves very well, someone who's confident, that would be very attractive to you. And you might go like, well, wouldn't that be attractive to anyone? But actually, no. I always have to say this because like I think people assume that everyone's attracted to the same things, but they really aren't. You would be attracted to a more confident, more outgoing personality, but a lot of people aren't. Some people might like someone more quiet, or, so you would be attracted to that. Venus in Gemini makes you attracted to, well, let me put it this way. So like Venus in Gemini, it really desires variety, and it likes new things. It can handle a lot of different information. It's very eclectic. So if that's how if that's how you are in a relationship, or with your desires, that means you would want, like, some people in astrology think that that's like a cheater placement, which I don't believe in. It doesn't mean, it could mean that you're promiscuous to some extent, because, like I said, you do need that variety there. But it doesn't mean that you can't be monogamous as well. But my point of view is that, like, if you are going to be with just one person, they have to be someone interesting. They have to be someone complex and dynamic, because, again, you still need that variety. You can get variety from one person, but it would take a certain kind of personality. So if someone is just very more simple, or that would kind of get boring for you. You need someone with many different sides to their personality, or maybe multiple people. Venus and Gemini, I've actually hooked up with like several of those, and they always do like many different positions, which is really fun. Because again, it's that variety there. Variety in sex or variety in relationships would be really attractive to you. Also, someone you'd be attracted to people who are maybe different or interesting. Someone who you could have a good conversation with, or someone intelligent who just knows a lot about different things. And you would be kind of like that too, since you've got Moon in Gemini. So a lot of the bulk of your personality is that way anyway. So you would really enjoy someone who you could just have really interesting conversations with, or someone who is different than everyone else somehow, someone unique, I guess. Yeah, because again, it's just all about that variety. It's all about gathering different information and experiences that are unique or interesting in some way. You wouldn't be, let me see, again, your chart's kind of tricky to read, because it's nice that it's so well balanced, but it's just difficult for me to read because it's so kind of contradictory to itself in a way. Like Venus and Gemini is not very possessive. It enjoys just being kind of spontaneous and having the freedom. So I guess that could make it more promiscuous as well, just because it wants the freedom to do whatever it wants, kind of. Like if you had Venus in a different sign, you might really desire more commitment and obligation, and that closeness would make you feel secure. But with Venus and Gemini, you don't really need a whole lot to feel secure. You just want like new experiences. You want to explore. You have a lot of curiosity and energy. You want to try new things. Yeah. So I think if for you to be in a happy relationship, I think you would want. Like some relationships are a lot closer and a lot more possessive, I guess. I wouldn't see you being very possessive. You'd want the freedom to do whatever you want, and you'd want your partner to have the freedom to do whatever they want too, if you have a partner. Yeah, and Mars and Leo, Mars and Leo can be possessive, but it also just wants to have fun too. Both Leo and Gemini are very fun-loving signs that just want to have really fun experiences. So I think to you, sex or relationships would be just about having fun and trying new things. You don't want to get too serious in that area. You don't want to have a really serious or really sappy, relationship or partner. You just want to have fun, have someone to have fun with, I guess. That's the focus for you. So that's kind of nice. That's fun. You wouldn't be bogged down by like super heavy. You could have some strong feelings of lust for sure with the Mars and Leo, but like you wouldn't get super possessive or obsessive over people, or you wouldn't have super high expectations. You'd be kind of just open to whatever they are, and just open to having different experiences in general. And then with Venus and Gemini, Mars in Leo, that could make you attracted to fire or air signs. And what else? Oh, and so what that means is like you'd be attracted to people who are kind of just not too serious, I guess. You'd be attracted to people that are kind of just spontaneous and I don't know why the word whimsical is coming to mind, or people who are just kind of like air and fire are the more spontaneous, more active elements. They're more talkative, more active, more doing things, more exploring around. Earth and water are more heavy, more sensitive. They think before they act. So that wouldn't be so attractive to you. You wouldn't want to be bogged down by a more serious person. You would want someone kind of light and just fun, I guess. Okay, what else? And that's kind of the gist of like your main personality, really. Um, you've also got Moon and Venus in the sixth house, so that would make you really like humble and um, just because sixth house is difficult. So like your emotions are kind of in a difficult place in your chart. So and again, I don't think emotions would be a super big challenge for you in life, just because you're more earthy and airy and with a little bit of fire. So you're more. I don't think you get bogged down with super strong emotions as much as compared to other people. Um, but there is something about like the core of your personality which has maybe endured some hardship in the past, and so and again that sounds so vague, but just let me explain. Um, so like I think like you do know what it's like to be sort of an outcast to some extent. I think Taurus Sun with Mercury, Aries, and Gemini Moon. I think you'd be very good at kind of blending in and being good at social interactions, and you'd be socially intelligent and stuff like that. So I think you could definitely fit in and with people. But at the same time, I think there's part of you that knows what it's like to be on the outside, or knows what it's like to have challenges in life somehow, something like that. That something that's humbled you in the past, I guess. And so it so that makes you an individual thinker. You think for yourself. You don't get caught up in what everyone else is thinking or feeling or doing. Also, you're more humble and you're more open minded, I guess. You're more open minded to people who might be outcasts or someone different or edgy or quirky, you know? Like I said, you could definitely blend in with more mainstream personalities, which is really nice. But at the same time, I think you might also be attracted to um, outsiders, I guess, or outcasts. So that's really nice. Again, it's really balanced. You can kind of do whatever. You can work with outcasts or with more mainstream personalities. But just in particular, that sixth house. I know you probably don't know these terms, but that part of your chart, yeah, would make you maybe root for the underdog in some way, or yeah. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. What else? So you have your IC and Aries. To me, that it's not always true, but usually that indicates when you're young, you're a very restless child, maybe kind of rebellious. Usually it makes a child who doesn't listen to their parents. So you might be a little bit of a brat, or maybe just rambunctious, or very active, very precocious. Aries IC. So yeah, you'd be kind of born just already knowing who you are, not wanting to be a child, not wanting to like follow directions or listening to your parents. You would want to be more precocious, just more doing what you want. Maybe figuring things out in life very quickly, just because you'd be you just start your life very quickly, I guess. Especially if you have Capricorn rising, maybe with Sagittarius rising too. I could just see you as a child getting into things very quickly, maybe talking to adults more, or talking to kids older than you, just figuring things out in general. You also have South Node in Aries. Excuse me. So, yeah, I really see in your early life you starting things very quickly, being very precocious, very fiery, very active, very curious, not very scared of things at all, just kind of getting into things very quickly, if that makes sense. And then, but as you mature though, as you get older, I think you'd mellow out more. And you've got MC, Pluto, and North Node in Libra on the other side of the chart. So who you are as you mature and go into a profession, you'd be kind of a peacekeeper at your work. So you would help to maintain an environment that is peaceful at work. So you would kind of be maybe someone who's a little bit impartial, or maybe a little bit detached, but someone who's I don't know how else to phrase that, but you're somehow contributing to make a more orderly or peaceful environment at work. And again, that might sound vague, but it's really not. Not everybody does that for sure. There'd be something pleasant about your attitude at work, but it would be in a professional manner, especially if you have Capricorn rising. It would be almost kind of strategic. You'd maybe seem kind of warm and just helpful or friendly at work, but it's all sort of part of a strategy. It's just what it'd be how you think you should be professional, basically, which is a really good strategy. It's a good personality to have at work or in the public sphere. Hopefully that makes sense. You also have Pluto there, so that adds a little bit of intensity there. I think you could be a good leader, especially after everything else I talked about. I think, like I said, you would be. Yeah, just everything I said so far would make you maybe a good boss or a good leader in some way. But with MC in Libra, I've looked at a lot of countries' charts, and a lot of countries have Libra midheaven. So, like, again, that's like your reputation and stuff. So, having your reputation in Libra, that would make it more. It's hard to describe, but like pleasant and friendly and accommodating, but it's in a detached way. So, like, someone who doesn't know Libra energy as well, or someone who doesn't know you as well at work, might just think like, oh, you're just super friendly and helpful, and you are those things, but it's part of a bigger strategy, I would say. Not that you're manipulative, but just that it's what you think should be expected in a professional atmosphere. And you're right, that's definitely a good strategy to have. Hopefully I explained that well. But with Pluto there, that means that there's sort of an intensity to it. You might dramatically shift your. You actually told me that, so I'm kind of cheating. But you might dramatically shift your career area in life, maybe one or multiple times, if that part of your chart gets triggered, which I'm sure it would eventually. And what else? Yeah, you might have to like totally destroy one career and start another in a totally new area. Maybe once or more in your life. And also there's just an intensity there. So like you might seem intense in the way that there's like more under the surface. Or people might just sense that like they can't always tell exactly what's going on in your head, that there's something more that you know about or something like that. There's like a sort of unclear or a mysterious magnetism about you at work, if that makes sense. I know that sounds really weird, but like, because usually having that Pluto energy there, it draws people in. It's very magnetic. It's very attractive to people, but there's something mysterious about it. So people are drawn to you, but they like don't know why exactly, or I don't know. They just sense that you're like powerful somehow. At work, people might think that you're more powerful than you are, which would be really useful to have. And again, I think it would kind of contribute to making you potentially a good leader or a good boss in some way. Yeah, so I don't know if that makes any sense at all. And what else? North Node in Libra. And I think that's the direction you are meant to go in life somewhat. So, like, as a child, you might be more rambunctious, like I said it. But then as you grow older, you're sort of meant to take on the role of maybe a little bit more of an observer, or more of someone who's a little bit more detached and kind of just observing, or maybe not being so direct. Being direct is good. But, I mean, Aries can be, let me phrase this better. Like at an early age, you might have been too headstrong or too just starting things without thinking first, I guess. I mean, I guess we could all relate to that a little bit, but you might be a little bit too, maybe overly confident, or, just getting into something with not enough information first, or getting to a situation that you don't really have the skills for to do properly, maybe. So as you get older, you're more meant to be more detached, more just kind of cool and calm, more of an observer maybe, or something like that. Being a little bit more detached, or what else? Maybe focusing on others more. You don't seem like a really selfish person in general, but there's something to do with your evolution here that's going from a more selfish, more impulsive area that you would experience more at an early age, going from that to something more detached, more observant, more focused on others. I don't know if that makes any sense to you at all. What else? You got Saturn in Leo, so that would be very humbling as well. I think I'm totally contradicting yourself. Your chart's hard to read, but Saturn and Leo it's kind of a it's kind of a blow to your ego, especially at an early age. You might have sort of self-esteem issues just at an early age, but as you approach 30, you would have a lot of evolution in that area, and then after 30, Just as you get older in general, you would mature a lot in that area. So like where you might have kind of a low self esteem at an early age, that would actually ideally or hopefully usually what a person does with that placement is they would have a low self esteem early on, or just challenges involving their ego, not knowing their place or not knowing where they fit in. Could also have to do with your family, challenges in that area, feeling like you don't fit in or feeling like there's no pride there. It's that's Basically that's really what it's about, is pride. At an early age, it'd be hard for you to be proud of yourself or your family or anything that you create at all, um, whether it's something you create at work or um, yeah, that pride wouldn't be there. It'd be a very challenging area for you. But as you get older, especially around age 29, 30 is kind of a milestone for this. Eventually that actually becomes an area of strength for you. So eventually you actually do learn to have a very healthy sense of pride for yourself or maybe your family or anything you create. Um, or like for like if you wanted to have children, for example, because Leo, it rules our pride, and especially pride over things we create, and sometimes that could include children. Um, Leo's a very childlike energy, so that childlike energy too would be very difficult for you to have in an early age. So you might be, yeah, you might be kind of a serious child maybe. It might be hard for you to just kind of let loose and have fun. But as you mature, you find that sense of pride and that sense of fun. You would hopefully allow yourself to be more like a child and just have fun, and also to be more confident, or have a sense of identity, a stronger sense of identity. So all those things would be challenges early on, but then be strengths as you get older. And specifically, I was going to say having children. If you were wanting or trying to have children, it would probably be something you would have difficulty with at first, and it would take time. But eventually, you would succeed, and I don't know, you'd probably have a really great relationship with your kids, for example, if that makes sense. And it doesn't have to be kids. It could be like, I don't know, if you're making art, or if you're making something for work. I mean, pretty much in any of our workplaces, you're creating some kind of product, even if it's a service. There's something that you're creating, so it might be hard for you to be proud of something like that early on, but it's something that you have to work extra hard at, and then later, um, you're extra skilled at that. You're extra proud of your work, and rightfully so, because it's something that you had to work on. Hopefully that makes sense. um I haven't read a chart in a while. Let me see. You kind of have um Jupiter exalted, Uranus exalted. Your chart's very balanced. Like, it's not extreme in any one area, because if I have contradicted myself, sometimes placements can be very contradicting, but it just makes a balance. And so, I mean, on the one hand, it could maybe be hard for you to balance these very different parts of yourself at times. But I think because they're all just so scattered and so balanced, you, you'd be a very balanced person. This is like that's the thing I think of the most. It's like the most balanced chart, because you've got the grounded stability, consistency of the Taurus sun, but then the flexibility, openness of the Gemini moon, and then you've still got the fire and the maybe charisma or confidence from the Leo Mars and Mercury and Aries. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I see. What else? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. So let me know what you think of that. Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like I was kind of all over the place with this one. But yeah, that's what I see. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think.